Hi, almost 80,000 people have watched the video of this fantastic Marmon 16 on the road with me behind the wheel. You didn't know about it? That's because you're not a subscriber. Subscribe right now. Hit that button, hit the bell icon to be reminded when we post great new content, and join the family. Hello, and welcome back to our exhibition, Stars of 30 Audrain Exhibitions. In this episode, we'll take a closer look at the classics. Now, these are the cars that many people think of when they think of a classic car. The reason why they're called the classics here in America is that they represent a golden age of the automobile, when technology and design and practicality had reached a fever peak, right in the age just before World War II. And in fact, the cars of the 1920s are some of the most adventurous and extravagant cars ever seen. The car behind me is, of course, the museum's logo car, the 1939 Alfa Romeo 6C 2500 Berlinetta by Carrozzeria Touring. This is a car that was represented in our very first exhibition in October 2014 and is featured in 3 other exhibitions since. It lends itself to such themes as horseless to horsepower, big, bold, and brassy, as well as landmarks and early engineering. And in fact, as we mentioned in a previous video that we did, this car showed in a very dramatic fashion in that very exhibition how much had been accomplished since the dawn of the automobile through the dawn of World War II, when it was contrasted with the 1886 Benz Patent Motorwagen. This is a car that really sort of represents everything that you want to know about a 1930s car, and in fact looks forward into the 1940s and the 1950s. It's sleek, it's powerful, it's beautifully designed, it's designed for a very, very high-end clientele, and you can tell in the details wherever you look in this car that are so amazingly apparent. Now, what's also very interesting is, again, the way design and engineering was advancing so rapidly at this point, especially design. Another car featured here in this exhibition is a 1927 Isotta Fraschini Tipo 8AS Roadster with a body by Fleetwood of Pennsylvania. This is a car that is absolutely the quintessence of the roaring 20s. And in fact, this car was ordered new by the great screen idol Rudolph Valentino. Unfortunately, he never took delivery of the car. He passed away at a very young age before the car was finished. But the car was completed, shown at the New York Motor Show, and sold off to its first owner. What's really fascinating about this Isotta is the fact that it carries an American body, which you think, well, that might be slightly odd. But of course, Isotta Fraschini's main market was the United States. And for many people, their only knowledge of Isotta Fraschini is actually from the movie Sunset Boulevard in 1950, where the great silent film legend Norma Desmond had an Isotta Fraschini town car. And it's also interesting because this Fleetwood body really embodies both the spirit of an American exuberance plus the elegance of an Italian speedboat. It's an amazing car, and in fact, this car was actually the winner of the Best in Show of the 2019 Audrain Newport Concours d'Elegance, our initial event. It's a car that really shows how the feeling of freedom and optimism in the 1920s can really be expressed in these cars. These were cars Isotta Fraschini made its name in World War I building engines for airplanes. As a matter of fact, there's a wonderful airplane, a big World War I Italian Caproni bomber at the Curtiss Wright Air Museum that's powered by 4 gigantic Isotta Fraschini engines. And Isotta Fraschini, as a company, continued in business long after they stopped making cars, building marine engines, and is something that is a very interesting part of automotive history and indeed transportation history. Now, one of the things that you'll also see is the fact that we use all of the cars. You've seen this Alfa Romeo in a number of videos that we've done here in the Audrain Museum Network, and the Isotta Fraschini is also featured as well in an episode of Mansions and Motor Cars. Certainly worth seeing, because to see this car in the gallery is wonderful. To see it moving on the street is just absolute poetry. Now, speaking of absolute poetry, you shouldn't have favorites, but we're going to take a look, and I'm going to get closer to one of my absolute favorites in this exhibition, and indeed, all the collections. It's not Italian, and it's not an American body. But I think you'll love this car as much as I do. Parents shouldn't have favorites, but as I just mentioned, this is one of my favorites. This 1937 Bentley 4¼ Carlton Carriage Company Roadster. This is a car that, again, just is the absolute quintessence of the lingering optimism in pre-war Britain. If you were a wealthy young man or woman in the mid-1930s, you could dream of and own a car like this. That Bentley had been taken over by Rolls-Royce, and these were no longer the Bentleys built in Cricklewood by W.O. Bentley, but these are the Rolls-Royce Bentleys built in Derby, was for a very long time a demeaning factor in these cars. But anyone who's actually experienced one of these cars knows how spectacular they truly are. And this is one of the, if not the most beautiful open car ever built on the 4¼ chassis. In not just my opinion, in the opinion of many others who have seen this car, who knows the marque well. This car was featured in 2 of our exhibitions, our 7th exhibition, Big, Bold and Brassy, as well as one of my favorite exhibitions. It was an exhibition that happened shortly after I came here to the Audrain, Shining Bright, Advances in Automotive Lighting. And this exhibition really means a lot to me for a couple of reasons. One, because it was an exhibition that we actually opened while the museum was closed during the COVID pandemic. And it was the thing that really relaunched this YouTube channel in a big way, because we proved that not only could we launch an exhibition while the museum was closed for a couple of months, but the reception that the videos got was absolutely tremendous, and it really launched us to finding a completely new audience on YouTube and to delivering more content to our loyal audience who came here, the visitor guests, into the gallery as well. Also, in that exhibition, this car was shown to such great advantage because it's got these wonderful big headlights, these great driving lights and spotlights. And when you see all of these lights brilliantly illuminated, you realize what this car needed with the performance that it had in 1937 to cut through the darkness on a nice English country road with complete confidence. This is the car that is also amazing to drive. We've got a couple of driving videos of this car on the Audrain Museum Network here. Jay and I used it in an episode of Mansions of Motor Cars, and I also took it out for a solo drive. So be sure to check those videos out. They tell you all that you need to know about this car, and you can see the smiles that this car put on my face and on Jay's face. Now, the next car we're going to show you here is another one of my favorites, so it's okay, don't be too upset. I still love you. But this is a car that is not only my favorite, but a great favorite of yours too, the viewers of this channel. Okay, so here we are with another one of my favorites, the 1932 Marmon 16. This is an extraordinary car that is featured in 2 of our exhibitions, Horseless to Horsepower and, not surprisingly, Landmarks in Early Automotive Engineering. Because what this 16-cylinder engine represented was truly a landmark in automotive engineering, and it also represented something really interesting in terms of the automobile and society. It's 1932. The Great Depression is really just sinking in, and yet the manufacturers here in America and in England are just pursuing multi-cylinder luxury cars as quickly as they can. Granted, most of these cars were conceived in the 1920s, but they came to the market in the 1930s. And it was, I guess, a thought that perhaps this economic downturn was not going to last very long, or the way we get out of an economic downturn is we spend our way out. The people who had a lot of money still had a lot of money, but as the manufacturers quickly discovered, by the mid-1930s, those who had the money didn't really want to show it. But nonetheless, these were engineering marvels. And the 16 cylinders were not used as they are today in, for instance, a Bugatti, for power. It was about smoothness. These were quiet, smooth ways to produce vast amounts of power for effortless travel. And I said that it's one of my favorites. And this is also a very interesting audience favorite. It is one of our most popular videos here on the Audrain Museum Network, the video of me driving this Marmon 16, and it's also equally popular in an episode of Mansions of Motor Cars where Jay and I take this car out. It is an absolute dream to drive. It is so smooth, it is so quiet, it's so powerful, it is effortless, it's everything you want it to be. It's absolutely astonishing. Now, the cars that we've shown you so far are just sort of the tip of the iceberg when it comes to the classics that they've been displayed here at the Audrain. There are many other terrific cars that it made it very difficult when we were choosing which cars would go into this exhibition. But some of the other great favorites in the classic realm are the collection's wonderful Bugatti Type 57 Ventoux Coupe. An amazing car, very, very, very original. A car that's only been repainted 3 times in its life and never been apart for a restoration. An astonishing car. Another great favorite is the 1930 Duesenberg Model J Murphy Town Car. This is a car that has the distinction of having been featured in no fewer than 5 of our exhibitions here. And this is a car with a great Newport connection because it was delivered new to Nanoline Holt Inman Duke, the mother of Doris Duke. And speaking of Doris Duke, another great classic from the collection is the 1938 Packard Rolston Landaulet, ordered new by Doris Duke herself when she was 23 years old, and featured in a number of our exhibitions, including Women Take the Wheel. And no display of classic cars is complete without the Chrysler Airflow, a truly landmark car. And of course, here in the Audrain collections, we have a superb example, a C2 Imperial Coupe. And I happen to think, and a number of other people agree with me, that the 2-door Airflow is really the truest expression of the wonderful aerodynamic shape. Yes, this car was a commercial flop, but everyone can see now what this car meant to both American automotive design, to engineering, being the first all-steel car the Chrysler Corporation built, and here at the Audrain, where we've taken this car to a number of shows around the country where it's won prizes. We've also, of course, driven it in some of our videos, including an episode of Mansions of Motor Cars. It's one of our favorite cars. I love it. Everyone here in the staff loves it. The people that see this car just find it absolutely fascinating. The airplane-like details, the seats, the nose, all of the details are absolutely wonderful. And it's also a very interesting and fitting contrast to another car, our 1927 Minerva AF32CV Town Sedan, which is a wonderful car with a very surprisingly aerodynamic and very yacht-like appearance. Again, totally appropriate here for Newport. A car that's also very elegant and also one of the few automobiles to be manufactured in Belgium, a country that is absolutely crazy about the motor car, but never really found a home for constructors of the motor car. It's a car that we love here in the collections. It's shown very well. We won a prize with it at the Pebble Beach Concours d'Elegance, and it's a favorite wherever anyone sees it. But now back to my beloved Marmon. This is a car that, in comparing and contrasting with the Alfa Romeo with which we started this video, you can see how just in a few short years, from 1932 to 1939, how automotive design would develop and come back after World War II in a completely different idiom. This is a car very much of the classic idiom, with these wonderful flowing fenders, the side-mounted spares. This is also a very quiet car. It doesn't have a lot of decoration on it. The chrome trim is used very sparingly, and almost like a man in a dark suit wearing a beautiful platinum watch. It gives you the feeling of quiet elegance. It's one of the things that makes this, again, one of my favorites, and I guess one of yours as well. So thank you very much for joining us here at the Audrain for this little highlight of Stars of 30 Audrain exhibitions. Be sure to come back and see more right here on the Audrain Museum Network. Thanks.